Right. Good morning. Anone. Right. Okay, so last week we discussed about the software engineering processes and regarding building information systems. So next, what we have to look after is now you have the systems built, and you need to put those things in work in production, right? So once you are putting your software or information system in place, there might be issues, right? So there might be social issues, there might be ethical issues, right? So today we will be discussing the ethical and social issues in information systems, right? So if you go through the brief, so we will be touching what is ethical, social and political issues are raised by information systems, what specific principles for conduct can be used to guide ethical decisions, why do contemporary information systems, technology and the internet pose challenges to the protection of individual privacy and intellectual property, how have information systems affected everyday life, and behavioral targeting. So have you heard about this thing? So behavioral targeting, so one of the most common keyword or common buzzword in these days, right? So if you take the giant search engine, Google, right? So you know Google. So you might have, I mean, all of you have used Google search engine, right? So have you ever noticed that once you search for something, say you search for your learning things, right? Sometimes you search for leisure, right? You try to book your hotel or whatever this thing using Google search, right? So say you want to go for a vacation, so what you do is you just go to the internet, go to google.com and search your destination. Say I need to go to Nuvarlia. So what I'll do is I'll search Nuvarlia plus some other keyword, say hotels or whatever this thing. So have you ever noticed once you log out the system, and next time when you log into the Google or whatever this thing, in a while, I mean say next time you may be searching for some other thing, right? So you might be searching some educational matter, right? But you might see something related to Nuvarelia, something related to hotels, right? So that's one of the key, I mean, key feature of behavioral targeting. So what they do is they identify the potential customers, right? So by identifying potential customers, they do what they do. They sell those information to other parties who do the marketing, right? So who are into leisure industry and who are in say Nuvarli or upcountry region, they'll give the information at some cost. Okay, so these profiles or these guys are interested in going for vacation in Nuvarli, right? So how does this happen? So behavioral targeting. So have you ever noticed this thing earlier? Now, I mean, just you can go to the internet and search for something and leave the page and go to internet again and search for something else, right? So you can see YouTube also the same, right? So if you take YouTube, Yahoo, Google, then the e-commerce sites like eBay, Amazon, so all of those guys are practicing this thing, the behavioral targeting, right? So with the term behavioral targeting, we get another keyword called profiling. So what do you mean by profiling? So what is profiling? So once you log into the system, so it will take a small piece of file, right? So on behalf of you, so it will create a special, say, personal file, right? So what does it contains? Sometimes your age, your information, your education level, where do you travel, anything and everything, right? So you might not be notice those things, but all of those things are profile. Once you log into Google or whatever this thing, Yahoo or whatever this thing, so you might have a separate profile, right? So they are using those profiles at backend for other commercial purposes. So what are the problems? to efficiently target online ads, the profiling and behavioral targeting, right? So the solution is behavioral targeting allows businesses and organizations to more precisely target desired demographics. Google uses tracking files to monitor user activity on thousands of sites. Business monitor activity on their own sites to better understand customers. Demonstrates IT role in organizing and distributing information. Illustrates the ethical questions inherited in what? Information gathering. Right? So at some particular instances, people say that Google might know you better than your parents does it. Right? So what does it mean? So Google might know you better rather than your parents know about you, right? So that's how the profiling has advanced, right? So they know everything about you, right? So be cautious about what you are doing on the internet, right? At least today onwards. So always you have to think about your privacy settings, right? So once you log into the internet, you have to think about your privacy settings, right? So if you are on alert, you can identify those things, right? So if you have gone abroad, once you reach the airport, right? Say Katunayaka, once you reach that area, you will be automatically getting SMSs, right? So the IDD rate for this country. So you are traveling to India, right? So how does the people, I mean the Dialog or Mobitel or whoever the guy knows you are traveling to India, right? So once you reach the airport, started, no? Really? Right. So what do you mean by ethics then? So we discussed about the profiling and the behavioral targeting. So when it comes to information systems, you have to think about that in ethical manner. So what do you mean by ethical then? or ethics. So principles of right and wrong that individuals acting as free moral agents used to make choices to guide their behaviors. Principles of right and wrong that individuals acting as free moral agents used to make choices to guide their behaviors. So you have to understand the keyword ethics, right? So you should be able to define the keyword ethics. What do you mean by the ethics, right? So the previous topic, the recent cases of failed ethical judgments in business, that is from the US concept, right? So there are some examples from US, especially for Barclays Bank. I mean, if we take the GSA Glaxo, so have you ever heard about the GlaxoSmithKline has caught in guilty for some non-ethical things? So you know the company GSK. So it's the major producer of the drugs, right, pharmaceuticals. So what they do is how they promote their products. What is the main channel? How do they market their pharmaceuticals or drugs? Who are the end users of their product, pharmaceuticals or drugs? The patient is the end user, but can anyone go to the pharmacy or pharmacist and take drugs as he or she needs? No. You have to get a prescription, right? So in the pharmaceutical industry, the end user is the physician or the consultant or the doctor, right? So what they have done is they have influenced the consultants and the doctors by providing so many benefits like free articles. Sometimes they have sponsored huge events of doctors, right? And by using those kind of influential things, they have set targets for the particular consultants, right? So you prescribe this thing, this medicine, and you will be getting the benefit of, say, free articles to this country with hotels and all the stuff. Likewise, they have done some malfunctions, right? So the finally they got guilty, the company. They had to pay billions of dollars against the case. So likewise, in information systems also, we had some examples. Say about a few years back in Sri Lanka also, there we had an incident. The employee who has developed the system, say for one particular organization, the developer has developed a software, right? So that the developer has been picked by another company with the source code. Right? The new company is a competitor of the previous company, and unfortunately the developer did a mistake. I mean, he bought the source code, do the changes as per the company name. I mean, just he has changed the company name, right? But at the bottom of the report, one report, there's a copyright statement, right? So that was from the previous company. So because of that thing, he got caught and he was sent for jail about 1 or 2 years, right? So likewise, you have to manage the ethical practices according to your business, right? So we'll see what are the main points in information systems and ethics. So information systems raise new ethical questions because they create opportunities for intense social change, threatening existing distribution of power, money, rights and obligations, new kinds of crime. So how do you elaborate this thing? So information systems raise new ethical questions. Right? We take information systems which will change the intents of social changes, right? So how do you experience that thing? Can you give me an example where I mean the entire system or the entire social environment has changed with information system? Is there something wrong with this projector? So as I discussed earlier, I mean, if you take the use of libraries or bookstores, right? So earlier, the person who needs to buy a book have to go to the shop and search for books. If if the book is not available with the particular store, either he has to order the book or go to another shop, right? So if at that particular shop, if the book is not available, he or she has to go to another place, right? But nowadays what happened is you can go to online stores and search for your need or the book, right? So once you log into the internet, it's a matter of 1 or 2 seconds, right? So you can get the book within few seconds, right? So that's one of the area the change has done. So likewise, there are so many practical examples which you have experienced. I mean, you might have experience. So if we take the transportation industry, so earlier, if you want to buy a taxi or you want to hire a vehicle, you need to call the taxi agency or hiring agency and book the vehicle and wait till 1 or 2 hours. But now, what's the scenario? So have you ever experienced Pick Me application? Have you heard about Pick Me? So what does it do? So it's an application where you can share your location. Based on your location, once you enter your destination, you can see the nearest or the closest vehicles available, right? So once you enter the passengers, you need to go in the vehicle. Say, I need 5 people to be traveled from Kelaniya to Katunayaka, right? So once you enter those information, it will populate you, right? Okay. Geographic area, right? So within 5 minutes, you can contact this guy. Within 2 minutes, you will be able to get this vehicle. Likewise, you have eliminated that time consuming booking system, right? So it has changed the social environment. I mean, earlier there were call centers and there were vehicle tracking systems and all those stuff at particular office, but now what happens is all those things in the web or the online, right? So you can easily book your vehicle or rent your car. So same type of application. If you have heard Uber, have you heard the application Uber? Something similar to Pick Me, very popular in India, UK, and even in Middle East countries. This is connected, no? So what is Uber? Have you heard about that thing earlier? No. Have you heard about Uber? Uber. No. So it's a application. It's something like Pick Me. So what happened there is, suppose I'm traveling from Kandy to Colombo, right? It's also an application. So the difference between Uber and Pick Me is only one-way thing, right? So Pick Me can provide you a vehicle or hire you a vehicle. But with Uber, what you can do is, if you are say if you are traveling from Kandy to Colombo, right? You are the only person who's traveling in your vehicle, so you can share the facility, right? Say you are traveling with a car, you have another 4 slots for another people, right? So what you can do is you can upload your travel, right? So once you have a plan to travel from Kandy to Colombo, you can register with Uber as a driver, right? So you can provide the Uber your route, right? So I'm starting from Kandy at 7 a.m. and I'll be going through Kurunagala, Jayala, and Colombo, right? So once I put my destination and starting point and the time, and I can provide the expected rate, say per kilometer, I need 25 rupees, right? So once I upload my information, if somebody is on the way to Colombo from Kandy, can join with me. with the Uber, if we take the example of Uber application in India, right? So in India, there's a huge demand for transportation, right? So they have a lot of highways, but they have very congested highways, right? So if we compare with the Sri Lankan context, so we have highways about say maximum of 4 lanes, right? Sound is not there. It's on. Can you hear now? Sounds? No. No sounds. Is it okay now? Can you hear now? Right, have it. Okay. So we were discussing about the Uber application. So in India, it's a very demanding area that is for transportation, right? So you have to provide very rapid and comfortable transportation at an affordable cost, right? So if you take the example of Sri Lanka, right? So if you take the traffic situation of Sri Lanka, so all of the time what happens is you may get so many vehicles into the cities, but with only one or two people inside vehicle, right? So the rest of the spaces are not utilized, and that makes huge congestion, right? So to avoid that thing, India is practicing this Uber application very well, because the people who need to travel by their own vehicle can come in their vehicles, but they can utilize the non-utilized seats for the people who are willing to pay for that seats, right? So in that context, they have reduced their traffic congestion by about 30-40%, right? Because the number of vehicles are entering into cities have drastically gone down. And the other thing is the benefit of financial things, right? So apart from that, if we take as a country, the emission of carbon monoxide and all those stuff, then usage of fuel is going down, the time is saving, right? Likewise, the entire society has been changed because of application like Uber, right? So what are the ethical issues that may occur with those kind of applications? So they have one particular incident, that is a girl, a girl who was attached to a software industry has picked a Uber taxi, right? So she has taken the taxi about say somewhere around 11 p.m. in the night, right? So next day morning, her body was found, and she was raped, and she was killed, right? She was killed by somebody. So finally, what they found was the Uber taxi driver who was in, who has taken drugs, and he is the one who is suspect for the murder, right? So the thing is, police has picked that guy within 2 hours, right? Within, I mean, after the incident, within 2 hours, police has arrested the guy because everything is in the system, right? So who picked this girl at what time, and at what time she was dropped at the destination, and everything is there, right? And the other thing is, one such incident is happened, so you can blacklist that driver, right? So once you finish the tour, you can rate the driver, right? So you can rate the vehicle. Likewise, there are so many benefits, right? So once you log into the system as a user, you can check the profile of each and every driver. Say I want to travel from Kandy to Colombo. So once I enter my route, it will show me, right, okay, so these are the available vehicles, these are the available drivers, right? And I can see the profiles of each and every vehicle and the driver, right? So based on that thing, I can pick with whom and in which vehicle I can travel, right? So likewise, the social things have been changed, and what are the disadvantages in this type of application? The middleman has been thrown away, and the prices, right? If we take some taxi drivers, so they charge very high high taxi fares, right? But since this is very open and transparent, anybody can see the actual cost, right? So the price is determined as per the requirement of the user. And the other thing is the power or the bargaining power of the people, right? The users has gone now up because since this is transparent, and say if I am charging a very huge cost, so I won't be able to find hires, right? So that kind of things are there. I mean, and apart from that, the power of the middleman has gone away, right? So likewise, you can compare other benefits. So we'll see a model for thinking about ethical, social, and political issues. So if you think society as a calm pond and IT as a rock dropped in pond, which creates ripples of new situations not covered by old rules. So social political institutions cannot respond overnight to these ripples. It may take years to develop ethical expectations, laws. Requires understanding of ethics, make choices in legally gray areas. If we take the example of Uber, so it's an evolving thing. So you need time to prepare laws and regulations, rules and regulations for that particular area. Right? If you take social media nowadays, Facebook, Twitter, and applications like that, so it's an emergent thing, right? So you don't get that much of rules and regulations on social media, right? So it takes some time to mature those kind of things. So this is the model which we discussed just before. So if you think the entire social network as a pond, the information technology is the stone which put onto the thrown to that pond, right? So it will make several ripples. So you get property rights, system quality, quality of life, accountability and control, information rights and obligations, right? So those are the ripples. You might get ethical issues, social issues, political issues, right? So it takes some time to address all those things because this is an emergent thing. So 5 moral dimensions of the information age. So information rights and obligations, property rights and obligations, accountability and control, system quality, quality of life. So what is information rights and obligations? So information, if we take in the early context, so it was owned by sometimes say one particular organization or one particular individual, right? So with the advancement of internet and web, so it has been gone through everywhere. I mean, anybody can access information before he want to access, right? So there are rights, some sort of patents or copyrights, right? So likewise, information rights and property rights. So how do you distinguish information rights and property rights? So for information rights, you get Intellectual Property Act, whereas for property, what are the rights and obligations? So you can search for that thing, and we'll go to the next system quality, quality of life. So how does the quality of life has improved with information systems? So if you take the modern context, so earlier we had criteria or categories of say the upper class, middle class, and the lower class, right? So with the emergent information systems and social implications, the middle class has shifted to upper middle class, and the lower class has risen to the middle class, right? So if you take as an average, it's almost about I'm not exactly giving you the figure, it's almost say about 1/3 is now in the middle class, right? So where your power of expensing, right? So the power of bargaining, whereas the way you can buy something, I mean the poverty level has gone down and your income has gone up, right? So since this is a global trend, most of the contribution is from India and China, right? So if you take that particular, say 1/3 of the elevated level, so 60% is from China and India, right? So there is an emergent market for new systems like Uber and all those stuff. So that's how they have gained the benefit, right? So their quality of life has gone up because of this nature of this kind of information systems. And there are some key technological trends that raise ethical issues, right? So if we take the power of computers, right? Say about 10 years or 20 years back, the server which has the highest capacity in Sri Lanka was about, say, the power of Pentium 4, memory of maximum of 256 megabytes. So now, if we consider the current scenario, the normal desktop or the normal laptop, you get how much of process speed? 2.6 megahertz. Then your memory 4 GB or 8 GB, right? Your hard disk 1 TB, but at a very lesser cost, right? So say 20 years back, you got the same configuration as a server, about 10 million, and today you can buy the same set of features at about 75,000, less than 100,000, right? So the computing power and the rapidly declining data storage cost has risen some ethical and social issues in information systems. And the other thing is somebody is taking. So the other area is rising networking facilities, right? So now, if you take almost all the computers and devices are interconnected, right? So you can easily share your information. You can get information from anywhere else within a second. So networking and advances and in the internet. So copying data from one location to another and accessing personal data from remote locations are much more easier than the early. So what are the issues and benefits of doubling of computer power? So what are the benefits of rapidly declining data storage cost? So as I mentioned you earlier, we had two major processing categories. I mean, earlier we did something called batch processing. Now we are doing online real-time processing, right? So with the batch processing, you accumulate transactions or information of a day or month or year and do the processing at once, right? Whereas in online real time, what you do is you process it then and there online, right? So why people did not process information or the batches at real time at good old days? Because they had a limitation or bottleneck of computing power, right? The processors were not that efficient on those days. Whereas now you get much more powerful processors, right? And the other thing is the declining cost of storage. So earlier you were able to store very limited information on your system, whereas now it's very much cost effective to keep huge information like geostat or images on computer as digital format with at a very least cost. And advances in analysis techniques. So profiling, as we discussed earlier, profiling is combining data from multiple sources to create glossaries of detailed information on individuals. So each and every time you log into Google, so your profile will be updated, right? So non-obvious relationship awareness, NORA, combining data from multiple sources to find obscure hidden connections that might help identifying criminals or terrorists. And the other thing is mobile device growth, tracking individual cell phones. So if we take the Sri Lankan context, so we have reached, I think, 100% the cell phone. I mean, each and every people in Sri Lanka might have a cell phone now, right? So if you take the entire population, it's similar to the usage of number of mobile phones in Sri Lanka, the connections, right? So it's very much easy to track the mobile phones in the geographical location. You can track the phone or people with a very minimal cost, right? So if the phone is enabled with GPS, you can get the precise location. But if you don't have GPS, so you can get an approximate position where the phone or the people staying. So how does it work? Say if you want to track your phone or your friend, so he or she doesn't have GPS. How does it happen? The telecommunication carrier, say Dialog or Mobitel or Airtel or whoever, can trace the phone, right? So how can they trace it? So they take the nearest 3 towers, right? Say I'm in Kalani now, so I'm using a mobile phone of say Dialog. So what he can do is, if they need to track my location, so they just check what is the closest tower to me, right? Then they take the nearest other 2 towers. They'll provide, okay, so you are within the area of Kelaniya, right? So when it comes to say rural areas, there might be towers of distance about say 2-3 kilometers. So they can pinpoint you at least to about 1 kilometer accuracy. Whereas if you have GPS, you can get your exact position. So that's how the navigation and other things work. So when it comes to navigation, so you might have seen the system to navigate vehicles, right? So what are the benefits, and you know the history about that thing. How does this developed? So what is the reason? Have you used navigation, I mean, or GPS tracking earlier? So if you take the normal navigation systems where you can see in your vehicles or in your, basically it's in vehicles. Sometimes in some countries it's used in trains and other transportation modes also, right? So if you take the basic navigation system, the problem was, I mean, this was developed at Japan about 10-15 years. The problem which they had was, we take the main cities, say Tokyo, so they don't have agricultural lands, right? But the density of people is very high in that particular area, right? So they need fresh fruits and vegetables, then other things like fish and meat, right? So when the trucks, I mean, they used to deliver goods in huge trucks like 40-foot containers. So once they are traveling towards the city during peak hours, it generated very huge traffic, right? And the other thing is, once the people come to the stores, the people doesn't have enough goods because of the traffic jam and all the stuff, right? So to avoid that thing, they have think about a way for truck drivers. So how they can easily route through to their destinations without going through traffic jam, right? So that was the main objective of developing navigation system, right? So early it was developed for basically for trucks. So that was emerged for domestic vehicles as well now, right? So now even for a small car, you can see a navigation system. So, so if you take ethics in an information society, basic concepts for ethical analysis, basically responsibility by accepting the potential cost, duties and obligations for decisions. So accountability is mechanism for identifying responsible parties. Liability permits individuals and firms to recover damages done to them. Due process laws are well known and understood with an ability to appeal to higher authorities. So we have 5 steps of ethical analysis. So identifying and clearly describe the facts, define the conflict or dilemma and identify the higher order values involved, identify the stakeholders, identify the options that you can reasonably take, identify the potential consequences for your options. So we have something called candidate ethical principles. So the golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative: if an action is not right for everyone to take, it is not right for anyone. Descartes' rule of change: If an action cannot be taken repeatedly, it is not right to take at all. So those are the candidate ethical principles, golden rule and missing. So we have utilitarian principle, take the action that achieves the higher or greater value. Risk aversion principle, take the action that produces least harm or potential cost. Ethical, no free lunch rule, assume that virtually all tangible and intangible objects are owned by someone unless there is a specific declaration for otherwise. Professional codes of conduct, promulgated by Association of Professionals. Example, Association of Medical Association, ABA, AITP, ACM. Apart from that, the information systems and all those things are governed by IEEE or ACM, and promises by professions to regulate themselves in the general interest of society. Real world ethical dilemmas, one set of interest pitted against another. Example, right of company to maximize productivity of workers versus workers' right to use internet for short personal tasks. So if you take your work environment, you might have provided with email and internet, right? So have you ever seen a policy with regard to the usage of internet and email in your office environment? What does it implies? What does it contains? You will be provided email or might be internet for your office work, right? So day-to-day work. But by the meantime, you should have given a policy, right? Fair internet and email usage policy, right? Where you get the purpose of using email and internet, and there are certain instances you can't use email and internet, say for crimes, or sometimes might be for harassment of others, right? So apart from your business area, you can't use those things, right? So likewise, there are policies and procedures where you need to take in place, right? At the same time, say you are provided with email and internet, at the same but you are using it for other purposes. Say you are surfing Facebook, you are searching videos and looking videos on office network. So what does it happen? So it will reduce your bandwidth. The other people can't access the internet, right? At the same time, your productive time will be gone down because you are going through non-productive applications, and you are wasting your time on non-related things. Information rights, privacy and freedom in the internet age. So privacy, claim of individuals to be left alone, free from surveillance of interference from other individuals, organizations or state. Claim to be able to control information about yourself. So information rights, privacy and freedom in the internet age. So claim of individuals to be left alone, free from surveillance or interference from other individuals, organizations, or state claim to be able to control information about yourself. So once you log into the internet, say Google, at the first time, you will get an agreement, right? So there you get all those things, but nobody read this thing entirely, right? So what happens is, at the end of the day, without knowing you are at the dangerous end, right? So they keep profiling of you, and they sell information about your profiles, right? Likewise, so many things are to be concerned with regard to privacy. So fair information practices, set of principles governing the collection and use of information. The basis for most of US and European privacy laws based on mutually of interest between record holder and individual. So that's how they have slipped through the regular acts and the laws, right? So once they provide you the service, they are accepting your consent, right? It's at the initial stage. So they will provide you, okay, these are the terms and conditions. So same thing happens when you go to mobile operators, right? So once you buy a SIM, there are some set of rules and conditions, right? So have anybody read all those things entirely? No. What you do is you just give the ID copy, sign it, agreed, right? So end of the day, you are in trouble. Okay, so we'll take a break of 5 minutes and start again.